Okay, so today is May 1st, 2019, and this is like an addendum to the previous message. So actually going to kind of rehash what the previous message is, because this is like an important message. So basically, Leah Gray was asking us like what we think is what are we getting our identity from, and our sense of self-worth from? Is it the fact that we earn a lot of money? Is it our degrees? Is it our prestige and our status in society? Is it, and I thought of two extra things at least. Is it our looks? Like, are we confident? Like, if we are elderly and we look kind of saggy, like, do we think less of ourselves than, and we think that like someone young and vibrant and beautiful, like physically youthful, is more worthy of love, or more, you know what I mean? It's just so, it can work like multiple ways. Like a beautiful lady could like be proud, or like have pride in her heart because she looks beautiful, and think that, oh, she's more worthy of love and acceptance and admiration than someone who's elderly. But the revelation that I got around 1997 was that, and that's why I immediately went to start to minister to elderly in the convalescent home, because God gave me a revelation that He loves them just like He loves humanity, each one of us. He just gave me such a revelation. Like, you know, in today's society, we tend to just throw away and just discount elderly people, and just not respect them, not give them the time of day because of the outward looks. And Hollywood has a fetish of like youth, and they idolize youth to the point where people feel it necessary to get Botox, to get all sorts of what is that called, makeovers, facial makeovers, to surgery, to totally unnaturally make themselves stay youthful for longer than they are. I mean, if we take care of ourselves, I think a lot of us prematurely age because we don't know how to take care of ourselves. I believe that if that's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about helping people with their physical health and know what to do, is that if they do their best in preserving their health and taking care of themselves, not only for physical beauty, is primarily it's for health, is the quality of health that you have, which radiates inwardly to outwardly, right? And is much more important what your heart is than what your outward is. So yeah, and then God, and trust God for the rest, because God promises to renew our youth like the eagles. So those two things, the combination of that, we'll be able to live and it's really sad because and only God knows, does this woman love me because of how I look, how handsome I am, how beautiful I am outwardly? And one day, if I lose that somewhat or entirely, will that love fade away, and will they be more interested in more youthful looking women and men, and just in general? It happens so much in society, right? It's really sad. So only God can let you know who really loves you for you, and not outward appearance, right? So and it's much more important, the beauty of your heart. I really don't know how they do this, but this is such a cool filter. This is probably my favorite filter. It's so cool. Yeah, so there's that. And then there was something else I wanted to share. Oh yeah, for example, Craig's love for Michael, right? I have been privileged to see what godly love looks like. Michael cannot do anything for himself. But he's loved because he's Craig's son. And I'm curious to know what percentage of the church has their identity so rooted in who they are to God and not attached to money, prestige, intelligence, IQ, degrees, all that, like, would they truly be able to accept themselves and see themselves as worthy of love if they were a special needs child like Michael? Like, I would dare say that the vast majority of the church would like is actually having their worth and lovability in their the amount of money they make, the kind of home they have, the kind of car they drive, their wealth, their health, maybe their outward looks and intelligence. Like, if they're special needs, they might think they're less worthy of love. And yeah, I mean, like, having a special needs child and being able to see that what the godly love that a godly parent gives to a special needs child really can help, like, us get rid of false senses, false sources of identity, right? Because our identity should be in just the fact that we are sons and daughters of God, beloved daughters of God, whether or not we're special needs, whether or not we're handicapped, whether or not we look deformed or not, whether or not we're poor and have earned $30,000 or $30 million a year. Like, there's just so many temptations to, like, think that I'm better than you because ... right? But whereas, like, the truth is that we're all taken from Father's heart, and He loves all of us equally. You know, it could be like if your parent, like, had a favorite, or like loves your sibling more than you, like, and there's what is that called? There's a word for it. Yeah, that you might think God is the same way, but He's not. Like, He loves everyone. Imagine God's heart, and we're all made up of His heart. Like, His heart is made up of all of us, and He loves all of us equally. It's not like, oh yeah. And also another thing that's so key is, like, how many how many people have their sense of worth in how big of a church I have. How big is your ministry? You mean you only have like 20 people in your church? You're less of a Christian. You're less loved by God. You mean you only save one soul a year? Well, I save 30,000 a year, and so, like, God must love me a lot more, right? Like, that is so sad. Like, there's just so many things that can just be lies from the enemy to keep us from, it's like pride, you know, it's just pride. So it's basically performance mentality. And when we think that way, we think, okay, if I do this for God, then He's going to love me more, you know, and He's going to, I mean, I'm sure, like, staying in His perfect will, for example, with regard to who to date and who to marry, will have direct impact on, like, the happiness of your life. Because if we go with God's way rather than maybe what we'd like or our soul desires, that is not in His perfect will, like, if we go with God's perfect will, best for our life, then we'll get to enjoy the fruit of, like, being gifted by Him with His best, one of His best for our life, right? I mean, that is, like, the rewards of obedience, the rewards of consecration, and, like, choosing His way over our way, right? And surrendering our life to Him. So that, in that respect, like, that, I think that's probably the only major thing that could be highlighted in terms of, like, if you do this, then you'll see more of God's favor and blessing because you did it His way. Like, because if you totally, like, go against His perfect will and marry someone who is not God's best for you, then you might suffer much, much more than if you had married the person He wanted you to marry, right? So yeah, that's, like, the one exception. But there's, like, tons of possibilities of going astray and thinking that your worth, your lovability is based on things that totally are false. So yeah, that's my spiel. Thank you, Leah. You are such an inspiration. I love your Bible study, and it's wonderful. Your question, I wish I had the courage to post this on Color Me Happy, but I'm not going to do it. It's going to stay a private video for now.